You know that feeling when everything goes wrong at the same time. When it feels like the whole world is laughing at you, and you are standing in a crowd but feeling completely alone. That is exactly where Elliot was standing, at Gate 14B in a big airport in Chicago. It was almost 10 at night. Outside, the rain was heavy. Inside, Elliot was tired, lonely, and just wanted to go home. Then the screen on the wall changed. 2 words appeared. Flight canceled. Elliot did not know it yet, but that cancellation was about to change his entire life. Because 20 feet away, a quiet man was sitting with a book and a cup of coffee. And by morning, that man would become the most important person Elliot had ever met. This is their story, a story about 2 men who were both hurting, both hiding, both pretending they did not need anyone, and one stormy night that proved them both wrong. Elliot Reyes was 31 years old. He worked as a designer in Portland. He was smart, quiet, and very good at one thing: keeping people at a safe distance. He had not always been this way. 2 years ago, he had been in love, deeply, completely in love with a man named Dominic. They had shared an apartment, a life, weekend plans, and inside jokes. Then one morning, Dominic sat across from him at the kitchen table and said the words that people say when they have already decided and all that is left is the telling. "I love you, but I am not in love with you anymore. I am sorry." And just like that, the shared apartment became just an apartment. The weekend plans became empty Saturdays, and Elliot, slowly and very quietly, rebuilt himself into a person who did not need very much. He stopped going to parties. He stopped saying yes to dinners. He worked long hours, kept his apartment very clean, and told himself that this was fine, that being alone was not the same as being lonely. His therapist, Dr. Adiz, did not agree. "You are not healing, Elliot," she told him. "You are hiding,
I'm really
and you
sorry
have gotten
about that.
so good at it that it looks
It's all
the
right.
same from the outside."
I feel terrible.
He had gone to the Chicago conference because of her, because she asked him to stop saying no to everything. 3 days of strangers and name tags and small talk had worn him out completely, and now all he wanted was his own bed, his own silence, his own safe little world. Then the announcement came. Flight 2247 to Portland has been canceled due to severe weather. Please see ground staff for assistance. Elliot sat very still. Around him, people groaned and grabbed their phones. A child started
feel like I've
crying.
seen you before.
Someone said a bad word loudly.
Maybe. You do
The
look
whole
familiar.
gate turned into
Small
quiet
world.
chaos. He stood up, joined the long rebooking line, and stared at the wall. His phone had 9%
I'm
battery.
terribly sorry,
He did not
gentlemen.
have
There's
a
an issue
charger.
with your
He had not
reservation.
eaten
An
since
issue?
noon.
What kind of
His
issue?
shoulders ached from
But I'll
carrying
fix
his
it.
bag. He breathed
wanna help you.
slowly. He told
No
himself it
strings.
was fine.
Thank
Everything
you.
was
I
always
appreciate
fine.
that.
He almost believed it. Marcus Hale was 35. He was an architect from Seattle, and he was the kind of man who seemed calm in situations where other people fell apart. He was tall, with close-cut dark hair and warm brown eyes that always looked like they were thinking about something important. He did not talk too much. He did not fill silence just to fill it. The people who knew him well said he was steady. The people who did not know him said he was hard to read. Both were true. His flight to Seattle had been canceled 30 minutes before Elliot's. He had rebooked without any drama, got himself a hotel voucher for the
think we
Marriott
should
across
talk
the bridge, and was now sitting
about
near
what
gate
happened
14B with a black coffee and a paperback novel, a book called Giovanni's Room, which he had read 4 times and loved in a private, painful way.
I was hoping you'd come by
He was
tonight.
not upset about the
wouldn't miss it.
canceled
It's
flight.
good to see you.
He had nowhere
Me too.
he urgently needed to be. His Seattle apartment would be just as empty tomorrow as it was tonight. He had learned over the years to make peace with empty. That peace had come at a cost, though. 5 years ago, he had ended a long relationship with a man named Jordan, not because anything dramatic happened, but because Marcus had slowly realized that he had been pouring everything into the relationship,
haven't told anyone
quietly
this
starving
before,
his own needs.
but
He
with
had given
you,
and given
it
and
feels
smiled
right.
and been steady.
Thank you
And
for
one day he
listening.
woke up and realized he had no idea who he was outside of being Jordan's partner. The breakup had been calm. That was somehow worse than if it had been loud. Since then, Marcus had built a good life, meaningful work, a small
isn't
group
easy
of
to say,
close friends,
we
early
need to
morning
face it,
runs
the pain
along
we
the
share.
waterfront. He was happy, or something close to it, something that looked like happiness from a reasonable distance. He opened his book, he sipped
My
his
work
coffee.
isn't just a
He
job.
watched the
It's a
rain
passion
hit
that
the
connects me
glass
to
in
the
long
world.
diagonal
It's about creating
lines.
something lasting.
Then he noticed
So
Elliot.
that's the full picture.
He did not
What are your
mean to
thoughts?
notice him.
I
He was
see.
not
Very
looking,
interesting.
but something
And
made
that's
him
just the
glance
beginning.
up from the page.
I've been
Some
holding this
shift in the
in, but I
energy
need
of
to
the
speak
gate
my truth.
area,
It's
and there
about
was this
self-discovery.
man standing
Thank you
at
for
the end of
listening.
the rebooking line, quiet in a way that felt heavy, still in a way that felt like effort. Marcus looked back at his book. He read the same line 3 times without understanding a word of it. The rebooking agent told Elliot the first available flight to Portland was Thursday morning. Thursday, it was Tuesday night. She offered him a hotel voucher for the Marriott, one of the last 2 remaining. Elliot said yes immediately, took the paper, thanked her, turned around to walk away, and walked directly into
It's
a
hard
pillar.
to sleep. I know.
Just the
Too much on my
shoulder,
mind.
but it was enough to
Same.
swing
Just
his
thinking
bag
about us. Me
sideways,
too.
and his bag knocked over the tall, rolling suitcase of the man standing right next to him. The suitcase hit the floor like a small
I've never
explosion.
told anyone this before.
"Oh God, I'm
But with
so
you
sorry,"
here, feels
Elliot
right to
said
be honest.
immediately and dropped down to help pick it up. The man on the other side, doing the same thing, was the man with the novel. Up close, he was striking in a way that was hard to look at and hard to look away from at the same time. He had kind eyes, that warm dark brown, and he was looking at Elliot with absolutely no irritation. Just a quiet kind of attention that felt somehow more unsettling than anger would have been. "It's okay," the man said. His voice was low, unhurried, like someone who had never once said anything just to fill the air. "I really wasn't watching where I was going," Elliot said. They both stood up at the same time, suitcase upright between them. Elliot felt his face going warm. Long night. "Yeah,"
Man,
the
that
man
was
said.
something
He
else.
almost smiled.
Tell me about it. I
Everyone.
haven't laughed that hard in
They
ages,
stood
right?
there
It
for
feels
1
good.
second too
Absolutely. This is
long,
the
the
best.
kind of second that
So,
has a
what's
weight
next
to
for
it.
you after this?
Then Elliot
Maybe
said
the
sorry
coast?
one
It's
more
been a while.
time and walked away
Nice.
toward
Safe
the
travels.
exit, and Marcus watched him go and then looked back down at his book. Giovanni's room lay open on his lap. He did not read a single word for a very long time. The Marriott was connected to the terminal by a glass-covered pedestrian bridge. Elliot walked it slowly, listening to the rain pound the roof overhead and watching lightning
I need
flicker
to tell you
somewhere over the
something I've
lake.
been holding back.
The hotel lobby was warm and golden and full of stranded travelers, families with too much luggage, business people on phones, a group of college students who had somehow turned the whole situation into a party. Behind the front desk, 2 staff members were moving quickly and apologizing constantly. Elliot joined the check-in line. It moved slowly. He was 3 people from the front when he heard a voice behind him. "You were at the gates." He turned. It was the man with the novel. He was holding his book under his arm and a hotel voucher in his hand, just like Elliot. He had a small overnight bag on his shoulder and the same calm expression he had worn when Elliot knocked over his suitcase, like nothing in life ever surprised him very much. "Yeah," Elliot said, "I was. Rough night to be flying. Or not flying, I guess." The man smiled at this, a real smile this time, not the almost smile from before. It changed his whole face, made him look younger and warmer and far more dangerous in a way that Elliot could not immediately explain. "Marcus," the man said and offered his hand. "Elliot." They shook hands. Elliot noticed that Marcus's handshake was firm without being performative, just honest. The line moved forward. "Portland?" Marcus asked. "Yeah, you." "Seattle." "Both stuck then." "Both stuck," Marcus agreed. They talked while the line moved, small things at first, where they were coming from, what had brought them to Chicago, the particular cruelty of weather in November. Elliot found, to his quiet surprise, that talking to this man did not feel the way talking to most people felt. There was no performance in it. Marcus did not try to be interesting, he just was. Then they reached the front desk. The woman behind the counter looked at their vouchers and then up at them with an expression of genuine apology. "I'm so sorry," she said. "We only have 1 room left in our voucher allocation. The rest of the hotel is completely full." Elliot
This
and
spot is
Marcus
perfect,
looked at
isn't
each
it?
other.
Yeah, just like
"I already
us.
have a room,"
Exactly.
Marcus
Couldn't
said
agree more.
slowly. "I booked it earlier before I got the voucher." He paused. He looked at Elliot. Something passed across his face, a decision being made. "It has 2 beds." Silence. "You're welcome to take the other one," Marcus
I'm glad we
said,
could do this.
quietly,
too.
carefully,
This
like
feels
he
like a new
understood
beginning.
that the offer
It
was
does,
strange
and the rain's
wanted
not so
to give
bad.
Elliot every chance to say no. No obligation, it seems wasteful for you to sleep in the terminal when there's
There's
a
something about this
perfectly good
kitchen,
bed 10
the
floors up."
herbs, the pot simmering.
Elliot stood very still.
It just feels like home.
Every cautious instinct he had, and he had many very well-trained, told him to say no thank you, to go back to the terminal, to find a chair and sit in it and be alone the way he was good at being alone. But he was tired, and the lobby was warm, and Marcus was looking at him with those steady, honest eyes, and nothing in them said anything other than exactly what the offer appeared to be. "Okay," Elliot said. Marcus nodded just once, like it was settled. And they walked together toward the elevator. Room 1014 was clean and quiet. 2 double beds with white covers, a window with a view of the dark runway, a small desk, a lamp that gave everything a soft amber color. Marcus set his bag down on the bed near the window. Elliot took the one near the door, closer to the exit, he realized, and then felt a little embarrassed for noticing that about himself. "There is water in the mini fridge," Marcus said, moving easily around the room. "And I think there is a coffee maker if you need it." "I'm okay," Elliot said. He was standing near the door holding his bag and looking like a person who was not entirely sure he was allowed to be somewhere. Marcus noticed. He did not say anything about it. He just pulled out the desk chair and sat down and opened his book, very naturally, as if sharing a hotel room with a stranger was something he did often and found entirely unremarkable. The message was clear: relax, you are safe here, I am not going to demand anything from you. Elliot slowly put his bag down. He sat on the edge of his bed. He plugged his phone into the charger near the nightstand. The small relief of seeing the battery icon appear was almost embarrassing in its intensity. "What are you reading?" he asked. Marcus tilted the cover toward him. "Giovanni's Room," Elliot said. "James Baldwin." "You know it." "I read it in college. I cried in the library and then pretended I had allergies." He had not meant to say that. It came out anyway. Marcus laughed, a real, warm laugh that filled the quiet room and surprised both of them. "I cried on a train the first time I read it," he said. "Rush hour, very crowded's not my best moment." Something in Elliot's chest loosened just slightly. They talked about the book, then about Baldwin in general, then about what it had meant in their different but not entirely different ways to be young and gay and to find a story that reflected something true about the inside of your life.
I'm really sorry about that.
Elliot told Marcus
It's all
about
right.
reading it at 19
I feel
in his
terrible.
dorm room when he was still in the early days of understanding himself, the terror and the relief of it, the strange comfort of knowing that other people had felt these same things, had loved in the same complicated and painful ways. Marcus said that he had come out at 23, late by some people's reckoning, and that books had been the first place he had ever seen himself clearly. Before his friends knew, before his family knew, books knew. "They always know first," Elliot said quietly. "Yeah," Marcus said, "they do."
I feel like I've seen you
Outside, the
before.
rain kept falling.
Maybe.
The
You
city
do look
was
familiar.
invisible in the dark
Small
and the
world.
weather. The room felt like its own small world, separated from everything else by 10 floors and a storm.
I'm terribly
At some
sorry,
point,
gentlemen.
Marcus
There's an issue
ordered
with your
room
reservation.
service.
An issue?
He did it
What kind of
without
issue?
asking, just picked
But
up
I'll
the
fix it.
menu, read it briefly, looked at Elliot
wanna
and
help
said,
you.
"Are you
No
hungry?
strings."
Because you look
Thank
like
you.
someone who
I
has not
appreciate that.
eaten since this morning." Elliot wanted to say he was fine. He said, "Maybe a little." Marcus ordered soup and sandwiches and a pot of tea without making it a production. When the food arrived, they sat cross-legged on their respective beds with the plates between them like it was the most natural thing in the world, and it was, slowly, surprisingly, it was. Elliot ate and felt the tension in his shoulders drop by degrees. He told Marcus about the conference, about the 3 days of professional small talk and the exhaustion of performing competence for strangers. Marcus listened in the way that certain people listen, fully, without
I
planning
think
his
we
next
should
sentence
talk
while Elliot was still talking.
About what happened earlier.
"You do not enjoy being around people much," Marcus said. It was not a judgment, just an observation. "I used to," Elliot said.
I was hoping
think I
you'd
got
come by
out of the
tonight.
habit."
I wouldn't miss
What
it. It's
changed?
good to see you.
Elliot
too.
looked at his soup for a moment. Someone I loved left, and after that it was easier to just not reach for things, not risk things. He was a little surprised at himself for saying it. He usually kept that particular door closed. Marcus was quiet for a moment. "My version of that story is different, but the ending is the same,"
I haven't told anyone
he
this
said
before.
finally. I
But with
stopped
you,
reaching
it
too,
feels
for
right.
different reasons.
Thank you for listening.
Does it get better? Marcus considered this honestly. Something gets better, he said. You get better at being alone, but I am not sure that is the same thing. Elliot looked at him. No, he said softly, I
This
don't think
isn't
it is
easy to
either.
say.
The
we
rain
need to face
outside
it, the
shifted,
pain
a
we
brief
share.
pause and then a new wave heavier than before. The window trembled very slightly. They both glanced at it. I like storms,
My
Marcus
work
said.
isn't
Is
just a
that
job.
strange?
It's a passion that connects
No,
me to the
Elliot
world.
said
It's
immediately.
about creating
They
something
feel
lasting.
honest, like the world
So
is
that's the
just
full
being what it
picture.
is
What
without
are your thoughts?
apologizing.
I see. Very
Marcus
interesting.
looked at
And
him
that's
with an
just the
expression
beginning.
that was very
I've
warm
been
and
holding
very
this in,
still
but
at
I
the
need to
same
speak my
time.
truth. It's
That
about
is a good way to
self-discovery.
say it.
Thank you
he
for
said.
listening.
Elliot felt the warmth of being understood move through him like something he had been cold without and had forgotten the feeling of. They talked for a long time. Hours, maybe. Elliot lost track of it. The food was finished and the plates were pushed aside, and they had moved from the careful first conversations into the deeper ones, the kind that only happen late at night in strange places with people who are somehow both unknown and immediately familiar. Marcus told him about his work, the buildings he had designed, the ones he was proudest of, not the
It's hard to
biggest or the
sleep.
most
I
expensive,
know.
but the
Too much
ones
on
where
my
the light
mind.
came in
Same.
right, where the
Just thinking
space
about
made
us.
people
Me
feel
too.
held without knowing why. He spoke about architecture the way some people speak about music, like it was a language, and he had spent his life
I've never
learning to
told
say
anyone
something
this
true
before.
in it.
But
What
with
does a
you
good building
here,
feel
feels
like?
right, to be
Elliot
honest.
asked. Like a deep breath, Marcus said without hesitating, like the space is saying you are allowed to be here. Elliot felt something move in his chest. He thought about his own apartment in Portland, clean, minimal, every object in its careful place. He thought about whether it felt like that, whether any room in his life currently felt like that. He did not think it did. You design experiences, Marcus said. He was looking at Elliot with that direct, gentle attention. For apps and things, right? Yeah. Is it the same, trying to make someone feel comfortable in a space, even a digital one? Elliot thought about it genuinely. I think it is. You are always asking, does this
And that
feel
was something
welcoming?
else.
Does it make
Tell me
sense?
about it. I
Does
haven't
make
laughed
the
that hard in
person feel
ages,
like they
right?
are
It
in the
feels
right
good.
place?
Absolutely. This
He
is the
paused.
best.
I am
So,
better at
what's
making
next for
other
you after
people
this?
feel at home
Maybe
in
the
things
coast?
than I
It's
am
been
at
a while.
feeling at home
Nice.
myself.
Safe travels.
The words landed in the quiet room. Marcus looked at him for a long moment, not with pity, with something more careful and more kind than pity. I know that feeling, he said quietly. The rain outside had slowed to a soft, steady sound, and the room was warm, and Elliot looked at Marcus across the small space between their
I need
beds
to
and
tell
thought,
you something
I
I've
have
been
known you
holding
for
back.
4 hours, and I feel safer with you than I have felt with anyone in 2 years. The thought scared him. The thought felt like the truest thing he had thought in a very long time. He looked away, he cleared his throat. He said, I should probably sleep. Yeah, Marcus said, probably. Neither of them moved for a moment. Then Marcus reached over and turned off the lamp on the desk, and the room shifted into the soft darkness broken only by the light of the rain-blurred city outside. And Elliot lay down and stared at the ceiling and listened to his own breathing and felt, strangely, like something in him that had been clenched for a very long time had just slightly, carefully begun to open. Elliot woke at 3 a.m. He was not sure what woke him, a sound. Maybe, or just the particular alertness of sleeping in an unfamiliar place. The room was quiet. The rain had stopped. The city outside was dark and still. Marcus was awake too. Elliot could tell by the quality of his breathing, the awake kind, slow and measured, the breathing of someone lying still on purpose. Can't sleep either? Elliot asked softly. His voice was barely above a whisper. I sleep lightly, Marcus said, always have. Silence comfortable somehow. Marcus, Elliot said. Yeah. Thank you for the room and dinner and talking. He stopped, started again. I was not having a very good few months before tonight, and this, he paused, searching for the right words. Tonight was good, you were good. A pause. You do not need to thank me, Marcus said. I know I wanted to. Another silence, soft and full. Elliot, Marcus said. Yeah. I was not having a very good few months either. His voice was quiet and honest. I forgot what it felt like to want to keep talking to someone. I have been forgetting that for a while. The city lights shifted on the ceiling. Somewhere far below, a car moved slowly through a wet, empty street. What do we do with that? Elliot asked. I don't know, Marcus said honestly. but I don't
This
think
spot
we
is
should
perfect,
pretend
isn't
it
it?
isn't true.
Yeah, just like us.
Elliot's heart was
Exactly.
beating
Couldn't agree
in a way
more.
he recognized, a way he had told himself he was done with, a way that felt right now in this strange, quiet room at 3 a.m. less terrifying than it had in years. No, he said softly, I don't think we should either.
I'm glad we could do
They
this.
slept, eventually
This
deeply,
feels like a new
the
beginning.
good kind of sleep
does,
that comes
and the rain's
after
not so
real
bad.
honesty. When Elliot woke again, it was past 8 a.m. and the room was filled with pale gray light and Marcus
There's
was
something about
already
this
up,
kitchen, you know?
sitting by
The
the window
herbs,
with
the
his
pot
book
simmering.
and a cup of coffee from
It
the
just
machine
feels
in the
like
corner,
home.
and the whole scene looked so quietly perfect that Elliot felt almost embarrassed to witness it, like catching something private and beautiful. Marcus looked up, morning. Morning, Elliot said. His voice was rough with sleep. He pushed himself up and ran a hand through his hair. Coffee, Marcus asked. Please. Marcus poured him a cup without getting up, slid it along the desk. Elliot retrieved it and sat on the edge of his bed and looked out the window. The storm had completely cleared. The morning was pale and clean and the runways were shining with leftover rain. Looks like they will be flying again today, Marcus said. Yeah. A pause. How are you feeling? Marcus asked. Elliot thought about it honestly. Lighter, he said, which is strange. Why strange? Because nothing is different. My flight is still canceled until Thursday. I still have to go back to the same life. He held his coffee cup in both hands. But something feels different. I don't know how to explain it. You talked, Marcus said simply. Real talking, you let someone in even a little, that changes something in a person. Elliot looked at him. You sound like my therapist. Marcus smiled. You have a therapist who tells you to let people in and you still ended up sitting alone at the airport. To be fair, Elliot said, she has been telling me for a year. It is slow progress. Marcus laughed. Elliot laughed too. It felt wonderful. They went down to the hotel breakfast room together. They ate real food, eggs, toast, orange juice, and talked about small things. Seattle versus Portland, the best coffee shops, whether early mornings or late nights, were more honest. They talked like people who have been friends for years and also like people who are just beginning and know it and are trying not to rush or ruin it. Under the table at some point their knees were touching. Neither of them mentioned it. Neither of them moved away. At 10:30, Marcus's phone buzzed with an airline alert. His Seattle flight had been rescheduled to 1:15 p.m. Elliot's phone showed nothing. His Portland flight was still Thursday morning. They stood in the hotel lobby with their bags, and the morning light came in through the tall windows and fell across the tiled floor in long, pale rectangles, and neither of them said what was clearly needing to be said. So Elliot said. So Marcus said. You should probably head to the gate. Probably, Marcus agreed. He did not move. Elliot looked at the floor for a moment, then up. Marcus
I'm
was
really
watching
sorry
him
about
with
that.
those steady eyes, and
It's
there
all
was
right.
something in them that Elliot
feel terrible.
recognized, the same thing he was feeling himself. The wish that the timing was different. The awareness that this kind of meeting does not happen often, and that letting it simply end felt like a waste of something rare. I want to say something, Elliot said carefully, and I need you to know that this is difficult for me because I do not usually say things like this. Okay, Marcus said. Last night was the best night I have had in 2 years, and I know that sounds dramatic because it was just a hotel room and a storm and room service, but it was the most honestly I
feel
have
like I've
talked
seen
to
you
anyone
before.
in a very long time.
Maybe.
And
You do look
he
familiar.
stopped.
Small
I don't want to
world.
just walk away and pretend it was nothing. Marcus looked at him for a long, quiet moment. Then he reached into
I'm
his
terribly
jacket
sorry,
pocket
gentlemen.
and took
There's
out a
an issue with
business
your
card,
reservation.
small,
An issue?
white,
What kind of
simple,
issue?
and held it out.
But I'll fix it.
Elliot took it.
I want to
I
help
was going
you.
to give you that
No
at
strings.
breakfast, Marcus said.
Thank you.
And
I
then I was
appreciate
going
that.
to say there is a small restaurant in Seattle called Harbor Light. It's on the waterfront. They have the best soup in the Pacific Northwest and the worst parking situation in human history, and I was going to ask if you would come up one weekend and let me take you there. Elliot looked at the card. He looked up. You were going to ask me on a date. I was working up to it, Marcus said. I am better at buildings than conversation. That's not true, Elliot said. You are very good at conversation. Only with the right person, Marcus said quietly. The lobby was busy around them, families checking out, business travelers rolling suitcases, a staff member calling
I think
names
we
at the
should
front
talk
desk. But the particular
about
bubble of
what happened
space where
earlier.
Elliot and Marcus were standing felt very still. Yes, Elliot said. Marcus raised an eyebrow. Yes, I
I
will
was
come
hoping
to
you'd come by
Seattle.
tonight.
Yes, I would
I
like to
wouldn't
see
miss it.
Harbor
It's
Light.
good to see you.
Elliot
You
paused.
too.
And yes, I would like to see you. Something happened on Marcus's face that Elliot wanted to remember carefully. A quiet opening, a warmth that he had been keeping measured and even, letting itself be seen fully for just a moment. Good, Marcus said. He picked up his bag. He looked at Elliot one more time,
I haven't
long
told
enough
anyone
for
this
it to be
before,
intentional.
but with you,
Get
it
home
feels
safe, he
right.
said, when Thursday
Thank you for
comes.
listening.
You too, Elliot said. Marcus walked toward the exit bridge to the terminal, and Elliot stood in the lobby and watched him until he turned a corner and disappeared. And then Elliot sat down on the nearest chair and held the small white
This isn't
business
easy to
card with
say,
both hands and
but
felt
we need to
something move
face it,
through
the
his
pain we
chest
share.
that he had not felt in a very long time. Hope, that was the word for it. Simple, warm, slightly terrifying hope. Elliot spent
My work
Wednesday
isn't
walking
just a
around
job.
Chicago.
It's a passion that
He
connects
was
me to
not
the
usually
world.
the kind of
It's
person
about
who did
creating
that,
something
who took a
lasting.
wrong situation and
So
turned it
that's
into
the full
something.
picture.
But the
What are your
morning after
thoughts?
Marcus left,
I
he
see.
woke up with
Very
energy he had not
interesting.
expected
And that's
and went
just
out
the
into the
beginning.
city with his camera and his coat
I've been holding
and
this
spent the whole
in,
day
but
just
I need to
existing
speak
in the
my
world.
truth. It's
He
about
walked through the Art
self-discovery.
Institute.
Thank you
He
for
ate deep
listening.
dish pizza by himself at a counter stool, and not in a lonely way, in a peaceful, genuinely contented way that surprised him. He texted Dr. Adiz, "You were right about the withdrawal thing. I think I had been forgetting who I was outside of it." She replied, "That's the work, I'm proud of you." He texted Marcus once, just a short message, "The city is beautiful when you're not rushing through it." Marcus replied 3 minutes later, "Tell me something you saw today." Elliot smiled at his phone screen. He typed back, "A kid in a
It's hard
yellow
to
coat
sleep.
chasing a
I
pigeon
know,
for a
too
full
much on my
city
mind.
block."
Same,
The
just thinking
determination,
about us.
the
Me
commitment,
too.
very inspiring. Marcus sent a single laughing emoji and then, "That's going in a building someday." That energy.
I've never told anyone this before.
Elliot held his phone and
But with
walked
you
and
here,
thought about a
feels right, to
future
be
that,
honest.
for the first time in 2 years, felt like it was pointing towards something rather than away from it. Thursday arrived gray and quiet. Elliot got to the gate early, of course he did. He sat in the same seat as Tuesday night at gate 14B and looked at the departure board, and his flight was listed on time. He thought about all that had happened in the 48 hours since he last sat here. The cancellation, the rebooking line, walking into a pillar, a warm room on the 10th floor, a man with honest eyes who laughed at the right moments and listened in the way that changed things. He thought about the word Marcus had used, the right person, only with the right person. The boarding announcement came. Elliot picked up his
And that was
bag.
something else.
He walked down
Tell me
the
about
jetway
it.
and
I haven't
found
laughed
his
that
seat
hard
by
in
the
ages,
window
right?
and
It feels
watched
good.
Chicago
Absolutely. This
begin
is the
to pull
best.
away below
So,
him,
what's
growing
next for you after
smaller and
this?
smaller until
Maybe
it
the
was a
coast?
grid of
It's been a
lights and a
while.
gray morning,
Nice.
and then
Safe
clouds,
travels.
and then nothing. He opened his phone and looked at the business card photo he had taken. Marcus Hale, architect, Seattle, WA. He smiled. He put his earphones in and closed his eyes and let the plane carry him home. 3 weeks later, on a Saturday in December, Elliot drove up to Seattle. He had
I
done
need
the
to
drive
tell you
before.
something I've been
Portland to
holding
Seattle
back.
was less than 3 hours on a good day, the I-5 corridor moving through green hills and fog and small towns, but this time the drive felt different. His chest was warm and his hands were steady on the wheel, and the rain on the windshield made a sound like music. Marcus had texted him the address with typical efficiency and no unnecessary words. Harbor Light, 2 p.m. Parking is terrible. Park on the street 2 blocks south. Elliot had texted back, "Understood. Is this a date or a meal?" Marcus had replied, "Both, ideally." Elliot found a parking spot 2.5 blocks south and walked to the restaurant with the collar of his coat turned up and rain misting his hair. Harbor Light was exactly what Marcus had said, small, right on the waterfront, with old wooden walls and windows full of gray water and fog. The kind of place that felt like it had been there for 100 years and would stay for 100 more. Marcus was already there. Of course he was. He was sitting at a table near the window with 2 cups of coffee already poured and his hands wrapped around one of them, looking out at the water with the particular stillness that Elliot had first noticed in the airport rebooking line. Then he heard the door and turned, and when he saw Elliot, his whole face changed. That expression again, that warm, careful opening, that was for Elliot, and Elliot had driven 3 hours in December rain to see it, and it was worth every mile. "You found it," Marcus said, standing. "Terrible parking," Elliot confirmed, "exactly as advertised." They sat across from each other, and the rain moved across the water outside, and the coffee was warm between their hands, and they talked the way they had talked in room 1014. Easily, honestly, like two people who had already decided to trust each other and were now just discovering the details. They ate soup, they laughed a lot. At one point, Marcus reached across the table and touched Elliot's hand, not dramatically, not with a speech, just his fingers resting on the back of Elliot's hand for a moment, asking a question without words. Elliot turned
This
his
spot
hand
is
over,
perfect,
held
isn't it?
on.
Yeah,
I
just
have
like
been
us.
thinking about something,
Exactly. Couldn't
Elliot
agree
said
more.
quietly. What? The night at the hotel, you said you had forgotten what it felt like to want to keep talking to someone. He met Marcus's eyes. I think I had forgotten what it felt like to want things at all, and then I met you and
I'm
things
glad we
started
could do
feeling
this.
like they were
Me
worth
too.
wanting
This feels
again.
like a new beginning.
Marcus
does,
was
and the
quiet
rain's
for a
not so
moment.
bad.
The water moved outside, the fog shifted. Same, he said simply. Elliot nodded. There's
something about
else
this
that
kitchen,
needed
you
to be
know?
said
The
right
herbs,
then.
the pot
Some
simmering.
things are understood
It just feels like
completely in a
home.
single word. They walked along the waterfront after lunch, shoulders touching under the shared shelter of Marcus's umbrella. The city was gray and wet and beautiful, and Elliot breathed in the cold, salt air and felt wholly, quietly present in a way he had been practicing for a year without achieving it until right now. Tell me something, Marcus said. What? Something you want, not from me necessarily, just something you want, something you stopped letting yourself want. Elliot thought about it, really thought. To stop being so afraid, he said. To let things be good without waiting for them to fall apart, to feel like I am living my life instead of guarding it. Marcus nodded. Yeah, he said, me too. They walked a little further. Marcus, Elliot said. Mwah. Thank you for offering me that hotel room. Marcus smiled at the water. Thank you for saying yes. I almost didn't. I know, he glanced sideways at Elliot. I'm glad you did. Elliot felt the warmth of it all the way through, the hand in his, the rain, the waterfront, this honest and careful man who had sat across a dark hotel room and told true things and asked for nothing and somehow given him everything. Me too, Elliot said. They told the story differently. Elliot always started with the canceled flight, the tightness in his chest, the 9% battery, the awful moment of watching the departure board change. Marcus always started earlier with the coffee kiosk, the sound of the announcement, the decision to sit near gate 14B instead of somewhere else. The decision that changed everything, he would say, and then pretend to be very casual about it. Their friends, when they finally met each other, universally agreed that the story was impossibly romantic and also that airports were terrible places and they could not believe this had actually happened to real human beings. Dr. Adiz heard the story at Elliot's next session and said, in her composed and professional way, well, I am glad Chicago agreed with you. Elliot had moved to Seattle by late spring. Not all at once, first a second visit, then a third, then a weekend that stretched to 10 days because neither of them mentioned that it probably should have ended sooner. Then an honest conversation at Marcus's kitchen table with coffee and morning light about what they were and what they wanted and whether the distance was a problem. I like Portland, Elliot said carefully, but I like this more. Marcus looked at him with those steady eyes. I am not going to pretend I didn't want you to say that, he said. The apartment they found together
really
in
sorry
Seattle
about
had a
that.
window in the living room
It's
that
all right.
Marcus had specifically sought out.
I feel terrible.
A big one, facing west, that caught the afternoon light in a way that made the whole room feel amber and warm. When Elliot first saw it, he understood immediately. He understood it in the way Marcus had described good buildings, like the space was saying, you are allowed to be here. He was. They both were. On the anniversary of the canceled flight, a Tuesday in November, rain outside just like before, Marcus made dinner while Elliot sat at the kitchen counter and described his day. It was ordinary in the very best way. Quiet and warm and full, the kind of evening that contains no event remarkable enough
like
to
I've
write
seen you
down and
before.
yet feels, in the moment,
Maybe.
like everything.
You do look familiar.
Marcus
Small
put the
world.
food on the table and sat down across from Elliot and looked at him the way he had looked at him from across gate 14B, and
I'm
across
terribly
the
sorry,
hotel
gentlemen.
room,
There's an
and
issue
across
with your
the soup at
reservation.
Harbor
An
Light,
issue? What
with
kind of
that
issue?
careful, honest
But I'll
attention
fix
that
it.
had changed the whole direction
I
of
want to help
Elliot's
you.
life.
No strings.
What, Elliot said,
Thank
smiling.
you. I appreciate that.
Nothing, Marcus said, just glad you walked into that pillar. Elliot laughed. The apartment was warm. The rain fell outside. The window filled the room with soft gray evening light, and both of them were exactly where they were supposed to be. Not guarding their lives anymore. Living them.